Good day ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, bringing you another video all about cryptids. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. If you're not, they are animals that cryptozoologists believe may exist somewhere in the wild, but whose present existence is disputed and or substantiated by science. This includes your Sasquatches, your Nessies and whatnot. So before we jump into it, I want to thank you all for watching, and apologies if my voice is a bit hoarse. Getting over being a bit sick, but we'll trudge through it. Cryptids have been closely intertwined with many cultures throughout our human history, even rolling over to the present day. But can they be explained? Are there animals we can use to explain where these creatures may have come from? That's what I'll be trying to do today. And I think there's no better way to start this off than with the most infamous cryptid of them all. This being the one, the only Bigfoot. Maybe not one and only, I mean there's the Yeti, there's the Yowie, there's a lot. But this fella clearly goes by many names, which depends on the place that you're from. But they are all similar, being a human ape-like creature that is as large as it is hairy. They're normally around 1.8 to 3 meters tall. It is thought to be intelligent and elusive at best. Each version has their own origin, but we'll focus on the most famous, being the North American counterpart. The Sasquatch is known for many infamous videos, sightings, and foot plaster casts, yet they've never been confirmed. I'd be hard pressed to argue that footage and physical evidence surrounding this mythical creature is all just a hoax. And don't even bring up the show Finding Bigfoot. So then what does that leave us with? Just the sightings. Well, if you're an individual in the mountains, forests, or whatever, and you see a large brown or black hairy creature walking on two legs in the distance, what are you going to think? Especially when fed all this possible evidence of Bigfoot. Well, there's a good chance that you're going to think this is a Sasquatch. Realistically, there is a solid chance that a majority were merely misidentifications of brown and or black bears. Scientist Flo Foxon carried out a study where the results showed a statistically significant association between Sasquatch sightings and bear populations. This suggests that many reported sightings were likely misidentifications of black bears. Now, I think it's more likely that something like the American Bigfoot was inspired by native culture, which was then added by sightings of bears walking upright and from a distance, and then you merge it into the current day Bigfoot. Although this at least has an explanation. I think it's more interesting when we go to a place such as Australia. Sure, neither continent has primates, however North America has both black and grizzly bears, which can reach over 1.7 meters in height, walk on two legs, and could definitely be misidentified as a hominid creature. Australia does have the kangaroo, but I feel like it's very difficult to mix the two up. I mean, kangaroos move when they're either hopping straight up or when they're crouched down, walking on their all fours. However, I feel like Yowie sightings, especially as of recent, is again quite controversial, almost like the little brother saying, yeah, we've got something as well. I mean, with other cryptid hominids such as the Sasquatch and Yeti, it only makes sense with its broadened popularity, an increase of these sightings would occur throughout the world. So yeah, for a place just like Australia, it's much more difficult to pinpoint the most accurate choice, but the safest option is likely just to be a misidentification of kangaroos upright in the distance and or people. The likelihood of a large hominid living in the Australian outback is very, very tiny. Such a sliver of an increment of a percentage, though if they were around, at least they wouldn't have much competition over resources. But again, throughout this research, I'm actually quite surprised to see how many Australians believe in the Yowie. I mean, I feel like this cryptid is a bit too out there, but as a whole, I've seen a few people suggest that these continents inhabit a remnant population of Gigantopithecus. That's just not plausible. Bigfoot as a whole is a nice dream, but a dream is all it is. If we were alive, then we would have skeletal remains, or caught it on 4K with the amount of cameras and people that reside within the forests. Especially if we're going to say there's different species throughout the various continents of the world. There is no doubt that they would at least find some sort of evidence. For it to exist as long as the stories have been going around, without concrete proof, would mean that they'd either be smarter than us or living underground. I don't know, maybe a hollow earth like Godzilla and Kong. And I can tell you for sure, that is not the case. So yeah, we can pretty much shut the case of Bigfoot as misidentification of animals, as well as the human mind wanting something so badly to exist that they just may think of it up. Let's move on to another famous cryptid, this being the Chupacabra. In Latin American folklore, the Chupacabra is a mythical creature known for attacking animals and drinking their blood. Its name is a combination of the Spanish words chupa, meaning to suck, and cabra, meaning goat, translating to goat sucker. Regarded as a formidable but likely imaginary creature, the Chupacabra is often compared to the Sasquatch as a legendary creature in the southern region. If we use the original 1990s depictions of this creature, let's just say I wouldn't know what animal to pull out of Noah's Ark to try and match it up with something. Most probably because the first sighting of this creature was from a person who saw it at night straight after watching the movie Species, which is about aliens. Yeah, that starts to make a bit more sense. However, the more recent depictions do give a good chance of identifying this cryptid. It normally shows a more canine-like appearance, but hairless. Now, I side with this depiction as it makes a lot more sense. Now, why does it make sense, you may ask? Well, advanced stages of mange can make canines such as coyotes vulnerable to bacterial skin infections, leading to not only hair loss and thickened skin, but also emitting an unpleasant odor. This combines in the manifestation of what is termed as Chupacabra syndrome, a description which is given to an animal that is unsightly, hairless, leathery, so at least we have a concrete example of what our Chupacabra is. Biologist Barry O'Connor cemented this as he stated that a majority of these Chupacabra sightings can be linked with manged coyotes. He also elaborates that mange severely weakens the host, so they may be forced into attacking livestock because it's easier than running down a rabbit or a deer. So there we go, we've crossed another one right off of our list. The Chupacabra, a mange-ridden canine. Now we move on to our good old buddy, the Jackalope. The jackalope is a legendary creature in the North American folklore, depicted as a jackrabbit adorned with antelope horns. The term jackalope is a blend of jackrabbit and antelope. Piece that one together. Numerous jackalope taxidermy displays, including the first one, featured deer antlers on its head. Now, the history of this is that during the 1930s, Douglas Herrick and his brother, skilled hunters and taxidermists, gained a widespread popularity for introducing the American jackalope. Their method involved attaching deer antlers to the carcass of a jackrabbit, and they successfully market this as a unique creation. However, there may be a more natural explanation than you might think, as Douglas didn't invent this idea, merely introducing it to the wider public. This creature has been known since the 13th century, featuring a rabbit with show papilloma virus infection. This virus causes keratinous carcinomas resembling horns, typically on or near the animal's head. I cannot tell you how much I feel bad for this little guy. Just hurts the heart to see. But let us take a look at this virus's effect. Does it remind you of anything? Myths featuring rabbits with horns are not only found in Europe, but also in Asia and Africa. Researchers speculate that alterations caused by the virus may be a factor contributing to the origins of some of these stories. So there we go, we have another myth busted. And for our final cryptid of the day, let's go through the mighty kraken. So we've got the kraken. I feel like this one is quite an obvious animal. Could you possibly guess what this sea creature is? The Alaskan bullworm, that's right. Nah, obviously it's the giant and or colossal squid. These two can grow over 10 meters in length and weigh at least half a ton. Now, though the explanation for this is quite cut and dry, I think it's always interesting to look at what the historical context is for this. Do we have ancient sources? And the answer is that, yes we do. Ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote, of the calamaris, this so-called squid is much bigger than the other squids. For this squid has been found as much as 5 ells long. Even ancient Roman author Pliny the Elder wrote that there was a squid discovered that's head was as big as a cask, with this squid's estimation to be over 9 meters long. We also have the entirety of Norse mythology, keyword being Norse, because a lot of people think that the kraken is from Greek mythology due to Hollywood. But yeah, Norse mythology tells tales of a sea monster larger than an island which could bring down any ship. Were these exaggerations? Definitely. But if you're an ancient group of travelers and see a 9-meter long squid against your ship, and you tell me you won't start overthinking, especially by the time you get home. Although rare, sightings like these have occurred throughout history, from ancient to modern, which only added to the legend behind the cryptid. But in the 1800s and 1900s, these giant squids were finally confirmed species, so now we can put the mighty kraken to rest. Anyways, we've now reached the end of the video. As always, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, then don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as check out my second channel if you enjoy fiction. Right now, I'm mainly focusing on JJK, as well as the newest Godzilla movie. I'll catch you in the next video, see ya.